Hi everyone, in today's video we're going to take a green screen shot and then add a set extension. We'll key out the green, then we'll add some windows and then a cityscape and then blend everything together. Okay, so here we are on the edit page and I've got a clip here, a green screen clip. I'll put a link to this in the description. I just got it off a free stock footage website. And it's been lit pretty well, so the actual keying part of this will be quite simple. And what I've done here is just taken the first 6 seconds of this clip and then just kind of chopped off everything after 6 seconds. So let's right click on this and then we'll click on here, New Fusion Clip. And then we can go over to the Fusion tab. Okay, so on the Fusion page, let's rename Media In. Let's just call it green screen. It's a good idea to rename things as you go along, just in case you have lots and lots of nodes in projects and then it can get a bit confusing. Now what I've done here is turned off high quality and motion blur because these can slow the system down. So if these are on, then you just simply right click and turn them off. Okay, after the green screen, I want to add a delta key so we can remove our green. So with the green screen selected, do Shift and Space, and then as I've done here already, type in delta and then add that. And then if you come over here to the inspector, it says here background color. You have a gray at the moment, but there's a color picker. So you can left click here and drag it over to the window and then you can drop it. Now, as I said before, this green screen has been lit pretty well, so the key is going to be quite easy. So we've done that, and now after the delta key, I'm going to add a transform. So we can come up here to our toolbar, click on transform. We will rename this transform. Just call it green screen transform. Okay. And let's change here some of our parameters. So we'll change our size. I'm going to change our size to 1.173. So that's going to zoom her in slightly. And I'm also going to change my center Y to 0.46, just to bring it down slightly. After this green screen, I'm also going to add a color corrector, which we're going to use later. So we'll go here again on the toolbar, click on color corrector, and then I'll rename this as well. So green screen corrector. Okay, so now we have our green screen set up. So I'm going to move actually these over here just to organize things, because the green screen is actually the thing on top, and then we want to put things behind it. So it just kind of helps if you can see it in that way in the node graph. Okay, and what we need to do now is bring in our skyscraper image. So we'll go up here to the media pool and we will select this image city and city 1, 2, blah, blah, blah. Again, I'll put a link to this in the description. So let's close the media pool and we'll rename this as well. I'll just call it buildings. Oops. Okay, and we will merge this one now. Okay, so we want to merge it over a background, and the reason we do that is because we want to retain the correct aspect ratio. If we were to just bring this in, then it would be the size of the building's image, which is bigger than our composition. So to solve that problem, what we do is merge it over a background, and then we drop the alpha, and then we don't have that kind of aspect ratio problem. So bring in a background here by dragging this one into the flow, and then we will just connect the output of this one into here, and that gives us a merge. And what we will also, so if I show you this, yeah, we can also come up here to the inspector, we'll drop the alpha down as well, and we'll name these as well. So background, we can just call this actually let's just leave it because it doesn't really matter, that one. We can leave it as background. And what we'll do then after the merge is add a transform after this merge. So click up here and let's try to arrange these a little bit. So maybe we'll have things coming down from here. Oops, I just disconnected that. So after the transform, and let's call this buildings transform. Transform. And after this one, we will add a blur because this is going to be outside the window. So I'm going to blur it slightly so we have the attention more on the girl inside. So after this here, we'll add a blur. And again, you can find the blur here. So bring in a blur. Let's connect that one up. And we'll just name this one buildings blur. So we keep the same naming convention here. And then we'll also add another color corrector after here. And we'll call that one buildings corrector. Okay. So we've got our nodes here for this one. Now let's try to change things. So we want to change here the size of this image. Maybe it's a bit too close at the moment, so we want to kind of maybe zoom it out slightly. Okay. So to do that, we will click on our buildings. In fact, let's view this here by just dragging our last node here, the corrector, into the window here. Click on our buildings transform, and then we can adjust the size here, and then we can see what it's doing. So let's drop this one down to maybe 0.551. Whoops, like that. So I wasn't far off with my guess there. And we will adjust our center Y to 0.3. That's just going to bring it down. And I'm doing that just so that it looks right out of the window, so that you imagine the level where the girl is kind of similar to this area. Okay, and so what we need to do now is we'll bring in another group. So this is going to be our window, our frame. So we'll go here again to the media pool, and here we've got some windows. Just grab the right ones, this one here. So we'll call this windows. Let's close that one. Okay. And we'll again add a transform after this one. So click here on transform. Let's put it below. We'll call this Windows transform. Okay. And we'll do the same thing as well and add a blur, because again, we want it to maybe not be as blurred as the buildings, but still be slightly blurred. So again, we'll grab this one, bring it in here, and we'll connect up. And we'll call this one Windows Blur. And then again, we'll have well, we won't have a corrector here because this image is black anyway, so we can't really do much to it there. What we'll do now is just merge this in after our buildings. So we'll grab the output of the Windows Blur and drop it here. Whoops. Drop it here. That creates a merge. So this merge now contains both of our, so if I view that one, both of these, yeah, so the buildings and then the windows. But at the moment, all we can see are the windows. So to change that, we need to change in the merge here. We need to change the mode, yeah, the apply mode. So we'll go over here, selecting merge to, go to the apply mode, and select normal here and change it to multiply. And that will allow the buildings to come through where everything is white. Okay. And I will also adjust the gain here just to drop it down very slightly. Okay. All right. So now let's also change our, so we're viewing this one. Let's change our transform here, the Windows transform. We're just going to drop the size down slightly. 0.93 is what I worked out. And we'll change the center X value as well. So we'll just bring it slightly over. And okay, I think that's probably okay. Maybe let's change the Y as well, because we can change this where we've got this big kind of black line here. So we'll change the Y here to this. There we go. So that brings it down now, and you can imagine you're looking out the window of an office building and you're seeing the windows here and then in the background as well. So the blur here for our windows, we don't want too much. I'm going to give it here 1.3, so it's just slightly blur but not too much. Our buildings blur, I want it to be a lot more because it's further away, so I'm going to give this one a 5.1, so it's going to be further in the into the background. And what else do I want to change here? It's probably going to be enough actually for now. So what we need to do now is to merge our keying group here over this last one so that we then can see everything together. So let's just disconnect our media out, and we'll just drop this one onto this merge, and then we'll reconnect and then look at our media out by just clicking on this little dot. Whoops. So now we can see everything together. Now obviously it doesn't match, the colors are wrong. So I've added these correctors in here, and we're going to use those to change our color. So we'll start with our buildings and select our buildings corrector, come up here to inspector, and we'll change our contrast first of all, just bring it up slightly. And then what should we change? Let's change our gain as well. So we'll bring it up slightly. I'm just making very small adjustments here. I've kind of worked out before what I want. So I'm just going to type in what I wanted here. And then let's go to our green screen color corrector. And what we're going to do here is change the wheel here. So basically we look at the background, it's kind of got a bit of green in it and a bit of orange. It's like almost like a teal and orange, whereas she's the wrong color. So she's maybe a bit too warm, so we need to kind of bring it maybe towards the blue a little bit. So I'll just grab it basically and bring it this way. And I'll change the values here actually again because I've decided what it is that I want. So the saturation, I'm going to bring it up slightly. The tint, I want minus 0.375, and the strength here, so 0.0914. And again, these are just kind of values that I've thought about before. And we will also change our contrast here, so we'll change this to 5.7. Now as you can see, it's gone a bit crazy now, yeah. And our lift we will change here to 1. Now what we also need to do here is tick another box, and that will make things look a bit more normal again. So to do that, we click on options, and we need to select this pre-divide post-multiply. And when we select that, things will start to look normal again. Okay, so we've corrected now our composition. Okay, so what we'll do actually is add a final corrector after our merge 3. So we'll grab it from here, and we'll just make a few final adjustments. So let's bring up the saturation a bit. Let's go up maybe up here, and we'll also change our contrast like this. So this gives us our kind of final composition that kind of looks right, yeah. So I think the background and her, they match up pretty well. But there are a few other things we can do to make it blend in better. Okay, so the first thing we'll do is try to replicate the noise. So if we zoom into her and we'll play, you can see there is noise in the image, as there is in all video clips. So we want to replicate this noise on our background, and we're going to do that with a film grain node. So we want this film grain node to affect our background and our window, which means it needs to come after these two. So basically after this merge. So we'll shift and space, and we'll type in film. We'll grab the film grain, and then we'll add it. And then we want it to go here, okay, on this line. So if you left click and drag and hold shift, when you mouse over, it changes color. Let go of the mouse, and that will put it in here. So let's select it, and let's click on the inspector, and we'll change some settings. So if I zoom in, you can see right now it's a bit too intense. So let's dial it down. I will change our complexity to 5 just to simplify things. I will change the size here to 0.22, and then I will also change the strength, because we don't want it too in your face, we just want it kind of very subtle. So if I zoom in much more, then you can see what it's doing. So you can see it's there, but it's not too much, and it kind of matches what's going on with her. And it also gives the illusion of movement, because obviously it's just a still image in the background. All right, the second thing I want to do is a light wrap. And the idea of a light wrap is you kind of replicate light coming from outside and then hitting our subject, okay? So in the real world, that's what would happen. But obviously in the CG world, unless you light it that way particularly, then that's not how it is. So I want it to be after our green screen and before our color corrector. So I'm going to move these two over here out of the way. And I'm actually going to make copies of our green screen and our background. Now you could just take an output from here, another output, but it can get very messy. So let's make a copy. So we'll do Control or Command C and V. We will then group it by doing Command or Control G, and then we'll change the name. I'm going to call this Buildings Group. And, Building Group, that'll do. And then we'll do the same here with the green screen. So we'll highlight these, copy and paste, and we'll group them. And then we will rename these, and I'll call this Green Screen Group. Okay, so Green Screen Group. Now we're going to use a node called a map control, and we're going to feed this green screen group into both the foreground and the background, and then we're going to subtract one from the other. So here is the map control. So we'll grab that, bring it into the flow, take the output from our green screen group, connect it here to the foreground, and then also connect it here on the yellow one to the background. So now it's connected to both, and we need to change some functions here in our map control. So click on the inspector, and let's just move over there so you can see. So with our map control selected, we want to change this combine mode. At the moment it's none. We want to combine the alpha, and then we want the operation to be subtract. So let's view this map control here, and let's view the alpha channel as well. So to do that, we can click on this arrow here, and then we can just choose alpha. At the moment, we can't actually see anything. So what we want to do is add a blur. So I'm going to add a blur here to our foreground. So that's this green one here. So grab a blur and bring it in here. And again, we will hit Shift, left click, and move over. And then when it changes color, let go of the mouse, and that will give you this blur, and it will be in line. What we can do then is change this blur size, and then we start to see something happening. So now it's kind of creating this outline because we've subtracted our foreground from our background, and then we're blurring, which then reveals part of, in this case, our foreground. All right, so what we can do now is put this into our flow, merge it in. So we'll grab a merge here, drag that one in. We'll do the same thing again, left click, and then bring that one in. We will add our buildings group to our foreground. And if we then go back here to our color, then we will be able to see what's going on. Let's view our media out, clicking here. So at the moment, our buildings group as the foreground has kind of covered over everything we've done. So we want to use the map control here as a mask. Yeah, so we're going to put it into this effect mask, this blue one. So take the output from the map control, drop it on the blue one, and then she will come back. But this time she has a light wrap on her. And the light wrap, basically, you can see here is this around the side, but we need to adjust things, yeah, because it's a bit intense. So clicking on the blur, we can adjust this blur size, yeah, determine how much we want. Let's maybe just bring it in, I don't know, something like 6, roundabout. And we've kind of got a hard edge, so we want to sort of soften that. So to do that, we can go back into the map control. There's also a blur in here, so we can adjust this blur, and that will kind of feather it out a bit. Let's zoom out and have a look. So let's just turn this merge maybe off so we can see what's going on. So you can see there is this kind of highlight around the side of her, but we can make it more or less by just adjusting these blurs. So if we do this, we're seeing more of this light wrap. Yeah, the higher the blur. If we go in the map control and adjust the blur here, we're basically moving the kind of feathering. So I think we want this to be reasonable kind of amount. And then let's maybe see what we want here. Something like this, yeah? You just want to have the effect of something kind of hitting her coming in from the window, through the window. So let's just maybe put this one up a bit more. Let's again turn our merge on and off. Okay, so you can see there's something happening there. So hopefully that sort of blends things in a bit more. All right, now we are done. So we can play back. Okay, so in this tutorial, we've learned how to use the Delta key to remove a green screen. We've then added some buildings, an image. We've merged it over a background. We've color corrected these layers, added some windows. Then we've created a film grain to try to match the noise on the video clip. And then we've created a light wrap to try and blend her in more. Okay, I hope it was useful for you. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.